Sorry about that, gang. Kind of having to mess with some sound settings real quick. Bear with me. Got that set. Let me get the Discord opened. Alright guys, I have the channel live, my chat can hear you. As always, please be respectful, and also with your questions and answers, do try to stay on the topic at hand and not go off on personal tangents if you don't mind, just so we can kind of move things along. But again, introduce some people. We have the resident RoR Realm Watch host, Mr. Karrison Kelly.
Hello.
Mr. Evil Jordy.
Hello.
So excited, Jordy.
I'm really excited, actually.
Yeah, you're half tired. And our other guest, Mr. Nightman, longtime player in the RoR community.
Oh. Morning.
Morning, everybody, or afternoon, as the case may be. As it is noon Eastern Time, 6 p.m. for those people in the EU, and 5 p.m. in the afternoon for our UK people. And depending on where you're at in Europe, it's probably later than that. But I do want to welcome y'all to the second installment of my RoR podcast. I do appreciate y'all joining for this. It does mean a lot. Try to talk about things that are plaguing the community, or just general topics, and figure different things to ways to deal with it. Yeah, some people are a little bit tired. Jordy has an oddball schedule, but since Nightman is the newest person to join us on the show, I think I will let him lead with his short introduction of himself, his history with the RoR community, and lead off with the first question of the podcast. So, Nightman, you're up.
Well, I'm a first-time listener, long-time player. Kidding. Well, I played back in live a lot, and I played up until the server went away. Very sad day. Such a sad day. So many sads. And then I linked up in 2018 with the RoR community. Took another break and then came back this past year. So, love the game. Love everything Warhammer. Can't get enough of it. Been actually playing through every class again because there's no private server to test out builds and specs. So I've been chipping at every class while I'm streaming. As for my question, what do you guys think of the state of the realm? Like, what can be improved, and how can we as streamers help improve that?
That's a very fortuitous question. We were talking about that actually just amongst ourselves before you came in. Jordy, you want to do your bit first?
Yeah. Sure. I was just talking because I am extremely positive about what they're doing, because they've been improving the new player experience quite a bit. Now when you level, you're getting mail starting at level 1, kind of guiding you and explaining hey, by the way, this is in the game. I got a mail, I think at level 10, explaining kind of the gearing system. I got another mail at level 16 saying, hey, now you can go to these tier 2 zones and go pick up your mount in a major city, and what NPC to talk to and stuff, right? And they're doing milestone 20, 30, 40, 50 care packages for newer players, where you get a care package of potions and war crest. So I think they're doing a ton as far as improving the game. as far as like the new player experience goes, where I think it wouldn't really be a shock to anyone if you said like, we lost a lot of our newer players that came here via recommendation or video or something, where like before these guys ever hit tier 4, because the new player experience was kind of like not too well designed, I feel like, and the current devs, I feel like, are doing their best to kind of like patch some of those holes. But
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Aaron.
I was gonna say, as far according to your question, where like what can streamers do to help? I think streamers is just like these tour guides for newer players that, like, I'm pretty sure anyone who streams this game gets this question about 3 times a day. I know I do. It's hey, I'm new. I didn't know this game was still up. What do I do? What do I play? And it's just like we're kind of like these tour guides to like just be as optimistic as possible and just guide these newer players into like their right destinations where I feel like they'll have the most fun and stuff. Because one thing I will say, I see a lot of people will say like guide players in like I feel like the wrong direction and get them too focused on Warcraft too early. And I think some people forget we're here to have fun, right? So just like help players find the fun and they'll have a good time, I feel like.
I agree.
I do too.
What I would add is, I agree. Jordy is correct in the sense that I've noticed the trend as well. That lately, the powers that be have taken steps to try to make the new player experience more amiable, right? A bit more welcoming, and what I talked about before we went live. What I would just add to that is that in addition to the stuff that he's saying, when I think back to when I started back in 2016 and the leveling process that was in effect for a few years then, leveling just in general is easier today. It's more streamlined, and it doesn't take that. For example, I'll just give a concrete example. My Shadow Warrior, a couple months back, I decided to bring him out of retirement, and it had been so long since I'd seriously played the Shadow Warrior that I didn't have any set gear. I didn't have any full pieces of, I was still using some green and, blue tier 2 and 3 stuff. But within two play sessions, I was in, what's the set below Merc? Or maybe it was Merc, I don't remember. But in 2 play sessions, I had enough stuff to buy a full set of armor. And so it's just, and for those of you who may have been here when Conqueror gear was first introduced, and Conqueror gear was the high end, that was, you had to sweat bullets to get Conqueror gear. It was a nightmare, but all of that has just been streamlined over time, so it's a much better experience. Now, as a streamer, to help people, I suppose in promoting the game is just, I keep telling myself to be positive, try to be friendly and all that good stuff, because we're all human. Every now and then somebody gets on our nerves, but just try not to let that bleed over, and put out the best content you can. That's my 2 cents.
Well, something I would put in there, and this is something that I try to stress to a lot of the fellow streamers. Those of us that stream RoR, I stream it because I enjoy the game. I've long been a Warhammer fantasy player, 40k player. So as a streamer, you're on the front line. Your actions, how you conduct yourself, what people see on your channel will inevitably, it's going to influence whether or not they give the game a shot. So if you're on the super negative end of the spectrum and you just do nothing but bash the community on every little thing, yeah, it's going to have a negative effect. I've had people say that to me, I'm like, no, I'm not being negative. I just have a legitimate complaint, and I speak my mind. I'm entitled to it. I don't go for this, oh, don't rock the boat, don't make waves, don't say anything deal. I'm not a yes man, never will be. But to the point at hand, those of us that stream it, it's a lot's on us to advertise the game. Yes, it's got its issues. It probably always will have its issues. But we all enjoy it for various reasons. Again, it goes back to that whole love-hate relationship. But back to Nightman's original question. It was very interesting hearing you guys give your thoughts on the matter. Nightman, would you like to add anything else into it, or?
Sure. I mean, one of the cool things is we are a growing community, and it is a free server. So, I mean, I find that to be awesome. I just don't want it to reach a point where it goes away again, because I've lived through that. And it sucks being a player that really enjoys a game and knowing that your game's gonna end. Knowing that you're not going to be able to do this. So it's like, why even do this? But to answer or to tie into everyone's points, I think we just need to unify a little bit more, maybe cross stream. The other day I saw a returning player from live, and I mean, I stalk your guys' streams when they're up. Shout out to Jordy. Shout out to Thompson. I don't think I've seen Mart yet, but for the most part, he was new. He was doing his PvE thing, so I could tell he was a little bit more entrenched in a WoW mindset. And I was just like giving him little breadcrumbs, like, "Hey, have you been to the lakes yet?" Just getting him back into our lingo, because I think that's what it is. Anytime we get new players, we gotta get them caught up with our vocabulary,
acclimated.
Exactly. Thank you. You said that better than I did. So eventually he got to the point where he could do Scalium. And I ended up running it with him. And that was the first time I ever did that, because before I was just I'm going to sit in the lakes. I'm not going to do anything else but PvP. And yeah. So that's all I really have to say on that.
Well, again, very interesting question that you posed. Legitimate answers all around. So, without further ado, we will kind of move along to the next person in line with a question. And again, Chad, if you got any questions for any of the three people in the channel with me, feel free to ask, and I will vet the question before I read it out to them. So, that floor is open to people.
Come on, chat. We want your questions.
Next in line, Mr. Karras. I believe there was some other topics you wanted to finish discussing from the previous podcast. In addition, I believe you had some newer stuff you wanted to kind of put out on the table. So you're up.
I was afraid you were going to come to me next, and the simple truth is, you're right. There was something that went unfinished 2 weeks ago that I wanted, but at the moment, I don't remember what that was. And,
well, if you think of it, just kind of let me know, and we'll re-explore it. But I'm sure you have other topics that you would like to discuss, so fire away.
Hot seat. Get ready. Let's hear it.
Well, that's.
If you want some time, I can go. I have a question.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So,
save me here.
I've only played the game for 7 months. All right, so I think like 2 or 3 months in, we hit the 1.5 GCD, right, which caused a lot of controversy, right? So like, I feel like a lot of people didn't like it, and I've speculated a long time on my streams that like, hey, look, if eventually we're going to get a kind of ability rebalance, because the abilities aren't set up for a 1.5 GCD. And recently, Max said it in his Q&A with you, Karis, like I think almost a month ago now. And then I think it was, I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm so sorry. The community manager, Kalang.
Kalane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he recently made a forum post basically saying, hey, this is coming, just transparency and kind of explaining it, right? Um, are you guys excited for basically when this thing drops? Like the game is basically gonna be flipped on its head for a while as far as like the meta goes, like and stuff like that. A lot of us gonna have to almost relearn how to play the game. Are you guys excited? A little fearful?
I'm always excited about new stuff, right? I can't really comment on anything until I get my hands on it. Just when the global cooldown, transition, my gameplay was off for about a good 2-3 weeks until I got readjusted. I do hope they do start tweaking the abilities to reflect potential max and mining, because I'm a very movement-based player. I don't really like to play stationary or backpedal. I'm always trying to move or dance around you, and that has a lot to do with me maining a witch hunter back in live. And I think you can kind of attest to that, Jordy. When I watch you play your witch elf, you're constantly floating. I think of it like boxing. You got to kind of move and then punch, move and then punch. But to tie back into the question, I really hope that they do start either introducing new abilities or finding a way to make the abilities more fluid. To reference another game, Final Fantasy XIV does that very well. They do these like charge-based buildups, or they do these combo-based systems, and then they have off-global cooldowns on some of them. So if they could find a way to do that, and I know, it's a free game and the developers aren't really getting paid for anything, so their time that they do spend on it is literally their free time. So it's kind of hard to expect greatness the first few waves, but I think there is something in the future that they have a vision for. Hopefully we'll be here to see it.
I'm collecting my thoughts here.
Did that kind of answer your question, Jordy?
Yeah, to a point. Because while Karis collects his thoughts, I feel like right now, I'm not being overly negative because I'm really excited for the future of this game. I don't really know a whole lot of people who really enjoy the current meta of ever since they moved the GCD, Deftard, it was already strong. It's gotten quite a bit stronger. A lot of people annoyed with that. Healing feels a bit too strong right now, and a lot of the game has become overly defensive. So I feel like we might shift to where it's either balanced again, or we're going to maybe an offensive meta. And I feel like there's going to be some growing pains for sure, for sure. But I would rather see them take risk and do things like this than just try to play it safe, right? And we just kind of stuck in stagnation.
I got you. I want to add something in here because it is pertinent to the topic. ABQ he posed a question. It's a legitimate question. As a new player, I find it hard to put together groups for dungeons. Advice for trying to pug them, or would it be better to try to pre-plan? What are your collective thoughts on that, you guys? Because I know for my part, I try to. Depending on what I'm trying to do, sometimes I try to pre-plan. Other times, I try to just help form groups where I can. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, if you can always pre-plan, that'll be great. But it kind of does depend on his time. I noticed NA players tend to be a little bit more open, especially when it's really late at night, when there's really nothing to do in the lakes, to knock out PvE. Recently, I did sewers and scalium, and I didn't have any issue just pugging them. every now, excuse me, every now and again, because I'm leveling every character through, so I can't really talk on T4 yet. But for the most part, my T1, T2, or my T1 and T3 is on point. But back to topic, I would honestly just hit chat, make sure that you have the proper team comp, and just chip at it. That would be my advice.
Oh, another avenue I would suggest too, and I've urged this to people. I'm like, if you're not getting an answer out of the LFG channel, you could also step into some of the streamer chats and say, hey, I'm looking for a run. There's been plenty of times I've had people come into my stream chat and do that, and I've been able to help get them in groups. So it is an avenue. It also, encourages you to check out different channels, throw that follow out there, and interact with, that streamer to get their view on things. In general, it promotes the health of the community as a whole.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Not to be Debbie Downer here, but I think there's another aspect of this, and that there are two distinct classes of players in the game currently, which tends to be separated by those who've played for a while and those who are new. And of course there are people in between, but those are the two deciding classes, right? And I was just looking at the forum a minute ago, and I'm just going to go to it here. But someone started a thread about SC queuing, and I'll tie this back to the point here in a moment. But SC queuing is working as intended and driving players away. That's the actual title of the thread. And then he talks about the fact that in the OP, that queuing solo, or even in like a two-man, that the system is designed to put people into scenarios against the organized pre-mains. Okay, he bases that on the anecdotal evidence of observation, which is certainly a fine way to come to a conclusion, but he's right. And I talked about this before, that some years ago, and this was back in the Torque days, for those who remember Torque, but back then it was actually stated that was the clear objective of the SC queuing system. And the comment was actually published, and it's still on the forums, if somebody wanted to find it, but that you can play solo if you want to, but you're going to suffer. Now that is an exact quote. Okay, it was put in back then because they were trying to promote team play, right? They were trying to promote team play. But as an inadvertent consequence of that, Torque let the cat out of the bag, that it was set up that way to also punish those who are going to play solo. You want to play solo, fine, but but you're going to suffer for it. Well, that system is still in effect today, and with the player base today that we have, they are being defined by those who've been here for a while and have groups to run in. Right? They have pre-established groups, guild groups, whatever, to run in, and those who don't. That's the main two bodies of players that are on the server that are tipping the scales. Those that have the groups and those that are looking for them. And I think Wargrim in its thread actually says, playing solo during a weekend event is the same as playing solo in the other normal queue. There are people trying harder than you to win. I think that could have been better worded. There are people trying harder than you to win. That's a poorly worded comment, but it does expose or sort of try to support what I'm talking about here. Pre-made is not a bad word. It's actually good. You have the same options. Make some friends. Play together. Right? It's the same stuff. That's the answer. That is the answer you always get. Make some friends. Play together. But it isn't always that easy. It isn't always that easy. And the other problem, I think, that sort of inhibits that is in order for particular people to truly help the new players into running dungeons and getting in the groups and SC premates and all that, that almost becomes a full-time job when you're on the server. So I just think there are more factors stacked against, again, which ties to the size of the player base, but I think there are more factors that have added up over the years. Again, the law of unintended consequences that I talked about 2 weeks ago. More factors have added up to work against the simple statement of find a group. You know, there's more working against that than there is for it. I think that's unfortunate, but I also think that it's true. Your thoughts, please.
Well, for one, the biggest thing I see on it, and this is something I've been trying very hard to combat, is I've seen a lot of older players in the community, people that have been playing since the server went online, that have literally gotten the mindset they won't try to group with anyone new. They go for the mindset of excluding them because they have the mindset that, oh, well, these newer players are just, casuals. They don't care. They want to just grind them into the ground and run them off. They basically have gotten so rigid and resentful towards anyone new coming in that when new people do come in, the first thing they run into is that wall. And that's something that needs to really be addressed on that front. As far as the question at hand with go with a pre-made group versus a random. Again, I feel it boils down to what time of the day you're playing on, who you talk to, and how you go about it. It's obviously it's always going to be better to have a pre-made, as you said, form friends. Make friends in the community, have people that you can run with, or find a guild that works for your playstyle. The other aspect is, and even I've seen this, it's one of the reasons why I refuse to solo on my Slayer. It's impossible for me to find groups because it's just people refuse to talk. They don't want to socialize. They don't want to do anything in remotely in the way of working together on any level. They want to treat it like it's everybody for themselves, and then they lose. And then they complain about why they lose. But yeah, I would definitely say run with the idea of forming a pre-made team to do your dungeons, but be open to pulling in new people, because it can only benefit you having a larger diversified group of people to be able to say, hey, I'm doing a dungeon, anybody want in? Would you guys not agree with that?
Oh, totally.
I just don't think it's quite that easy.
Actually, it is that easy, Karis. I mean, it's just as simple as you putting the effort into it to try it. I mean, you try to make friends over time. It's not going to happen instantly. You build on it. You have to start somewhere.
I feel like most streamers of this game, because the community is so welcoming, we kind of live in a bubble. I'm kind of known as like the PvE guy because I literally run PvE all the time for people in my community. And the difference between me and I don't want to say an actual player, but a different player is I log on, I stream, I say, hey chat, let's run PvE. Who wants in? And I get at least 2 or 3 people, and then I just feel. Whereas like someone like, just like, oh, I guess I'll, look for a group. I think you're going to have, in PvE and across all MMOs, anyone who plays multiple MMOs will go ahead and tell you, you try to get invited to someone else's group, it's going to be a lot harder instead of if you like just make your own. Like your best option is like, if you want to really do like, say like gun bad, you just got to start your own group. You got to like be the leader, because a lot of people don't like making their own groups, and like that's the best way to actually get in. But if you're a newer player, I would say your best option in this game is join a guild. But on the kind of the SC question, I guess, is the big problem is not that pre-mades are better players. It's pre-mades have a 2-2-2, whereas like versus if you pug, you might get 6 tanks, 2 DPS, and like 5 healers, and like you just can't kill anything, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like
1 second, Jordy. We weren't discussing the SC groups. I was referring to ABQ's point about dungeon groups and so forth. But before you go too far, I did interrupt Karis. Do apologize about that. Karis, go ahead and finish your thought, please, if you will, with what you were going to say.
What I was just my main point was the answer, the standard answer when any of these issues come up, any sort of related, hard to find a group, or hard to do an SC, or hard to do this, that, or the other thing. The answer is always the same. Find a group. And with the personalities that are in play, sometimes around the server, and it's just not as the answer is just not that simple. Somebody says, "Well, find a group," as if, okay, you can find Gobo Club is a good, welcoming guild. Broken Safety is probably one of the best on the server as far as taking in new players and helping them get in. Vlos Veldren used to be that way until they fell apart. Gimli is that way. But then there are others that, like you yourself have said, Toth, there are other guilds out there that, and I'm not gonna, these names, I know who they are, I can tell you, but I'm not gonna mention those names. But the last place you want to go as a new player is to one of them, because their sole mission is, just like you said, their sole mission is to destroy the new player experience and drive off as many people as they can. And so, and someone new coming into the server, not having that background, not having that awareness of, those people on the server who are not and are never going to be their friends. It's just, the simple answer of, well, just find a group. It just doesn't always work that way. That was, and again, like I said, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I realize that I'm being a little negative here, but it all happens to be the truth. But anyway, that was my point.
I don't think you're being negative. I think you're just voicing your opinion and your point. But anytime there is any structured task, right? Like it involves more than one person, there's a little bit of a alignment period. The bad thing with pugs is that you might not see these people again. And I think that kind of ties into building the community that you were talking about, finding a guild, finding a group. So I mean, it's more of how much you're willing to put yourself out there without the fear of rejection. Like I spam chat. I'll spam region chat, I'll spam LFG chat, off-topic chat, because I don't know about you guys, but I cannot stand advice chat sometimes. So I'll turn off chats that just don't, or that seem a little toxic at the time. And yeah, so I mean, I put myself out there to the point where I'm just gonna find somebody that sees through the clutter of nonsense.
Well, I think all valid points of view, and hopefully we answered your question, ABQ.
Well, did Jordy finish his point?
I was about to get to that. I was just kind of summarizing what we discussed, where we were at, but I was going to get to it and let him finish his thought.
Well, I didn't want to go into like an SE tangent or whatever, but like I think in an MMO, I feel like it's your job to find, and maybe it sounds kind of messed up. It's your job to find like-minded individuals, and just like it's like the other group's job to try to attract like-minded individuals, right? You can look at every MMO, like if you're a PvE player, you're going to gravitate to the PvE guys, right? it's if you're a guy that, like you were saying, hey, I would just want to cause a ruckus and like make people want to log off the game. Those people are gonna find like-minded people to do that with. So I feel like all you gotta do is like just put yourself out there, say, hey, look, advice chat, whatever. I'm a newer player, looking for new friendly people to just trying to learn the game, and you're going to get like-minded people. Just put yourself out there and just like because the community in ROR is very, very welcoming and very, very helpful. I don't think anyone would really disagree with that too much.
It depends on who you run into it on that one. But yes, most are helpful.
Well said too, Jordy.
Alright. Hopefully we answered your question there, ABQ. And I see what you said about your playtimes. I understand that all too well. But I think with that, I believe we was going to get to Jordy for his question of what he wanted to pose to things before I open the floor back up to questions from the chat. So, chat, kind of be coming up with them questions. Would love to hear them.
Actually, I already asked my question because we skipped over Karis. Karis, did you ever figure out your question?
Go ahead, Karis.
Oh wait, sorry, I turned my mic off for a second.
No worries.
Yeah, and I kind of did too when I referenced this, the SC thread that I was talking about. I mean, there is something bothering me, but I'm not quite sure this is
Find the words for it.
the
Say
right
it.
forum. It's not. I'm not sure this is the right forum for it, but. So, again, I'm gonna, for the moment, Toth, I wish to defer.
Alright, fair enough.
If you have an issue.
Well, chat, any questions you guys would like to pose to the three guests on the show, feel free. Floor's open. I'm taking some questions, so please type away. If I don't see anything in the next minute or so, I will be moving on to some of the questions and topics that I want to address.
Can I sneak one in while all this is
Go
mustering?
ahead, Nightman.
So as T4 players, because I have my Shaman and I have my Bright Wizard, what are some of the struggles you guys face? Like we have kind of like a new player topic based perspective, it sounds like. So what are some of the things you might tell a new player once they get to T4?
The thing I would tell them mainly is just, see what interests you the most. Do you like large scale fights? Do you like small groups? Do you like a mix of both? Are you looking for, find the niche that works for you. Is the biggest thing I tell people, because everybody has their likes and dislikes.
And now I can engage in a bit of shameless self-promotion.
Go ahead.
which is one thing I'm good at. Anytime that question comes up, I go back to sort of the streamlined nature of the game as I've seen it develop over the years, and I think that the one aspect of it all that I tend to stress is that someone leveling a character now is they're gonna have fun in tier 1. They're gonna have fun in tier 2 and 3 scenarios, right? Because they're more balanced. They tend to be more balanced. But when you hit that 40, I'll call it the 40-40 mark. Now you can have higher renown, of course, right? I understand that. But when you initially hit the tier 4 mark at whatever renown rank you are, things change. And they change rather quickly and viciously. And there is and this is what I try to stress when I'm talking to people about it, is there is like a new learning curve sort of kicks in, because you're tossed out there in the mixed with all the Sovereign Warlord geared people and stuff like that, and how best to work your way through that period until you get up to renown rank 60 yourself and can get into Vank gear and stuff like that and become more competitive. It's a tough little stretch of road. It can be sometimes a tough little stretch of road. So I just, at that point, I always still recommend doing SCs, but that's just because I think SCs are fun. It's my favorite aspect of playing the game. But I also recommend, running in the lakes, find a warband. There's usually someone always running an open warband. And what I like about that is you'll see it, right? You'll see it in the chat. Even if they're doing the auto ban thing, they'll say, looking for X number of tanks, healers, and DPS level 16 and up. That's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in the game. Is a warband willing? They are willing in an open warband like that. They are willing to take lower ranked players. And so I just have always advised taking the best advantage of that you can. And you can work your way through the hard times, that initial hard time of getting into tier 4. Without losing your zeal to play the game at all. So thank you very much.
Not a problem.
That's a great points.
Jordy, what's your thoughts on it?
I think we kind of. What was the original question? Because I feel like I heard the answers and I feel like that kind of threw me off a little.
Just to really narrow it down, what advice would you give, or what would you tell a new player once they enter T4?
Once you enter T4, I feel like don't focus on the work rest, because I feel like so many people, especially during the Lazy Peon video, I feel like I watched a lot of people quit the game over stressing about work rest when it's not really a problem as much as people are making it out to be. I've watched streamers like that come in and stream the game for like the first week or whatever and just said, oh, I hit 40-40, now I have to do PvE and I don't really want to do PvE and because I have to save work rest or I'm gonna get screwed, right? And it's just like, I guess just like play the game, like I said with your previous question, just fighting like-minded people and just like have fun with the boys, right? Like log on, find a guild that's like actively running a little group or a roam group or a warband like every day and just like make friends, just have fun with the boys. Because if you feel like you log on and you're just constantly looking at that war crest, every kill you tab over to your war crest, you're gonna very quickly kind of burn yourself out and kind of have a bad time. I feel like if you just find your fun in the game, the gear will come eventually. It's no matter what you do in this game, you'll eventually just get geared out. And I guess that negative feeling of being 40-40 is going to pass very quickly. That's the best thing I can say for every MMO really, is just if you focus on the work rest in this game, you're going to have a bad time.
I agree.
I do want to welcome in Doomforce to the conversation. I do apologize, Doom. I could not find your Discord name in order to get a DM to you, so I asked Jordy to DM you. I do apologize about that, but welcome into the show. I am going to go ahead and field one of the questions. I want to do that way. It gives you time to collect your thoughts on the questions you have, and then I will open the floor to you. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Doomforce. Tell us a little bit about your experience in the RoR community.
Yeah, I replied to Jordy, but he never replied back, so there was kind of misunderstanding, I believe. But yeah, I play the game since ages. I believe I aged with it like everybody else, and to pick up the question like Jordy answered about new players, as an experienced player, I highly recommend, as soon as you get out of the noob phase, I would say, like let's say you reach 40-40, right? You should definitely aim for a guild, and highly recommend not picking a guild which has a low population, because lots of issues which I believe in this game come from too low population or too much effort to get things together. For example, finding a dungeon group is much easier in a big guild with a big alliance than being in a guild with only 2 or 3 active people, which we have quite a lot, and they are not really beneficial when it comes to group play. As well, when you start out in an MMO, I would also suggest, before you going on a solo way, you should play the group part of the MMO until you get all the mechanics, get the gameplay, even maybe get some gear, and then go for the soloing, because I tend to think that soloing is quite harder than grouping up warband play, party play. Of course, if you do it right. And the overall experience with the game will differ from a mediocre, at least, to having a great game, great fun, and yeah, I think that's a big issue.
Alright. And again, welcome to the podcast there, Doomforce.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Not a problem, man. And my question, one of the questions I have for you guys, and I think it's pertinent, and there are a lot of interesting characters here in chat. You can offer some insight to this. My question is, between warband play, which is more favored towards your large-scale fighting, versus your 6 and 12 man groups, what do you feel they mesh well, or can mesh well, or which one do you prefer is the more appropriate? What do you think more fits to you, or do you think that it should be a case of wherever, it should only focus on warband play? Because I've heard people say, well, no, it just needs to be large scale PvP all the time. And then I hear people that go, no, I want just small scale play. You do better in the small scale play, and I've seen it kind of go both ways. So which one do you think is more ideal for new players coming in, or just your personal opinions on it? Would love to hear.
Can I go first?
Go for it, Jordy.
I was gonna say I hate this conversation because I hear this a lot, and I'll say this: it's 2 different video games completely. There's the same abilities, but like you say, like you take a 6v6, right, or a 6-man roam, versus even like not even a pug warband, an organized warband. It's 2 different video games. Recently, I guess like a big criticism of me is I always like, stick to small scale or whatever. So I joined a guild recently and started doing some organized warband play, like, organized cities and stuff like that. It's a whole different world. It's like I'm playing a different video game completely. Small scale, I'm pretty confident in. I've soloed my Wii a lot, and then just starting to get into like organized city stuff like that. I'm rethinking on how I approach different situations and stuff like that. So I really feel like it's just a different game.
All right. I believe, Nightman, you were about to say something.
Yeah. So for new players, I would definitely recommend, and this kind of ties into what Doom was saying, go the warband, go the bigger groups, kind of get acclimated to what you're going to be running into. There's strength in numbers, and if you're not comfortable tabbing through or knowing your kill order, then you're going to kind of just be you're not going to be optimizing how much fun you could be having. Because again, no one really likes to lose, But if unless you're like someone that likes to grind, I personally love the grind. I find enjoyment in overcoming those challenges because I know I'm going to eventually reach that desired goal. Because my personal preference to gameplay, I love running sixes. I love small scale scrimmages. There's nothing more exciting than running around with 5 of the boys and taking out a warband or taking over a keep with just 6 people. Back in live, we used to run relics with just 6 people, and it would piss off all of Destro. So, I mean, the biggest thing you're going to want to do is just find your fun. And I think if you do that, you'll eventually start gravitating towards what you prefer to play. That's all I have to say.
Doomforce, you or Karis have anything to say?
I think
I do.
like there's a niche for everything, right? It is not entirely only warband play, and it's not entirely only small scale. I believe you can have a lot of fun with a 6-man, also playing objectives, getting kills, farming, while there are a couple of warbands in the lakes. You are not forced to build a warband or other way around. The warbands are not forced to split up in smaller groups just to have better fun, The thing I mentioned with the newer players, we often forget, like, newer players, they are new, so they don't know a lot of things, even simple mechanics, like reading a proper tooltip like guard, right? But when you are in a well organized group, other people will point your attention to it that you are not guarding properly, and you will learn things which you won't learn when you just keep on soloing. You just go in your SC or whatever, you do your thing, and yeah, many people don't care, so they don't learn. But when they get called out by people which they are socialized with in a group, then it's a different thing. This happens in small scale, big scale, and yeah, I believe you can have fun with everything if you know what you're doing.
Alright, Karis, go ahead.
I agree with Jordy. He made a comment that it's like playing 2 different games, right? When you go from the big, huge Zerg warband down to the 6-man or below, and that's exactly true. I have said for years that I prefer the small. I think this game, the essence of this game, is the way I usually put it. I think the essence of this game is the small scale. That's where it is the most fun. That's where it is the most exciting. And to me, that's always been sort of the allure of the game, is to be able to go out on your own, find a random fight, and there's a huge difference between a duel and a random 1v1. But anyway, to go out and fight one of those and win the fight and then get away clean. I mean, there's, I don't want to sound too poetic, but there's a purity to that. There's there's just, as far as the rush that you get from playing a game, Jordy asked me before we went live if there are any other games that I play, and there are a couple, but when it comes to an MMO game, there's nothing else. There is nothing else like this. There is nowhere else that I know of that you can go and fight that kind of battle, where you can go out into the lakes, find somebody, get into a random 1v1, and you win, and you get away. You get away alive. The game rush that you get from that is just unlike anything else of any game I've ever played. And in my opinion, you can only find it here. It's one of the great things about this game. Why am I-
Interesting.
Why do I have an echo now? What happened?
I didn't hear an echo. I don't. You still hear an echo?
I'm not hearing
Yeah, I keep
one.
hearing.
I think it might be on your end, Curtis, because I don't hear an echo whatsoever.
Yeah.
But interesting viewpoints all around. I agree. This game is two completely different monsters depending on how you want to play it. Small scale can be fun. Large scale can be fun. It's even better when the two aspects come together and you get some really interesting fights. I've seen that happen quite a bit the last 4 days, especially. As far as what you're saying in chat, ABQ, I'm not going to go a whole lot into that. It can be good in some aspects, but yes, it can also be cancerous. So it's a yes and no answer on that. I am going to go ahead and open the floor. Doomforce, fire away with your any questions you have or you would like to pose to both the chat or ourselves. But you're up.
I can pick up the X-Rim question because, in my opinion, X-Rim is healthy, but not like it is done at the moment. Like, you need X-Rim to be happening to even out the sides, because at some point you would have a great disadvantage on one side. But I highly recommend having a lockout for the side that has the advantage, and don't let those kind of people log in the other side. Like, only allow X-Realm to the side that has AO, and start that by, let's say, 40%, and remove it if it is below. Because if you just have it like now, what was happening is like you have these people that chasing the freebies and log in, see, oh yeah, Destro is dominating, for example. I don't really want to put effort in, logs out again, goes on Destro's side, PvE some doors, gets some bags, and says, I've done more now with those 2 bags I got than if he would stay and fight, you know. But to make good fights happen, you need some sort of population in the lake. If you have 180% AO, well, there's nothing much you can do, right? And you have to like find a way to balance it out. And the way we are currently using, with having a lockout timer, etc., just don't make any effort in balancing it.
Fair point. Any of you care to share a thought on that?
Cross roaming?
Yes.
I think cross roaming does have its benefits, and at the same time, it doesn't. Like, it's good to have realm pride, and I'm order only, I'm Destro only, and at the same time, we're not in a very big. We don't have a really big pop right now. I don't think there's enough people consistently on both sides to have a true war experience. And I say that because as someone that does play both sides, I can keep a secret. I don't go... The first thing I do before I log in is I check the website. And I see what population actually has the lower pop. And I pick that side for the day unless I have pre-engagements. And then I just chip from there. Now, if you're one of those people that go knock on doors and get your bags and take advantage of that system, okay. But you're not really providing proper gameplay. You're taking away from the experience in doing that. And that's just my own personal opinion. Because I understand, maybe that person might not have the time needed to do what they need to do throughout the week or whatever it is. But at the same time, you want to have a certain level of integrity when it comes to leveling your character.
I got you. That's a fair point. Fair point. Karis, your Jordy care to comment?
I'll comment. I don't think cross roaming is a problem. A lot of people want it to be. I feel like a lot of times that when I see people complaining about cross roaming in this game, it typically is I'm having a bad time. I'm looking for something to blame. It's not necessarily cross roaming because I think for the most part, I do think there's a few bad actors when it comes to cross roaming that like can kind of kill the fun for other people, but like I feel like for the most part it's an overall positive thing. But I'm mostly a Destro player. I mean, I could really care less if like two warbands of Destro jump on Alder side. If anything, I welcome it because I'd rather have AEO personally. I like being the underdog. But for the most part, I don't really. And maybe it's a worse problem on the Order side, and I'm just not seeing that point of view because I don't really play Order a whole lot. I've been trying to like mess around with Order a bit more to kind of get a point of view from both sides, but like I don't really, as being mostly a Destro player, I don't really see during at least my playtimes the negatives of cross roaming. Like maybe some other players would.
I fixed the echo issue, by the way. But anyway, I don't. I agree with what's been said pretty much. I don't see cross roaming as a huge issue. Every now and then, just like anything else, every now and then, it may sway a fight, but it's just really not that big of a deal. People going back and forth. To me, anyway.
The problem comes in when the numbers are high in difference, right? If you're a small-scale player, you probably think, oh yeah, 180 AO, perfect. I play my Witch Hunter, I play my Witch Elf, whatever. You enjoy it. But as soon as you have like 100% AO, if you're a large-scale player, you're basically done on your side. Like 100%, 150 above, there's nothing you're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
You may be lucky if you are in a pre-made guild warband with a good lead and good calls. You might get some picks and make some fights. But if you're leading a random warband, there's nothing you're gonna do. And that affects the player experience, right? They log in, they see 150% AO. A large scale is mainly dead at this point, right?
Yeah. I can speak to that because I saw this the other day during my stream. At one point, it was 300% AAO in favor of Destro. To the point that Order, there was 2 Pug War bands and 1 pre-made, and all 3 groups at one time, they just said no more. We can't do anything. We are so outgunned. And then we had there were Destro players coming on saying, why aren't you guys fighting? Let's see, 300% plus 300 plus players on Destro side alone. The population on the server at the time hit like 65% in favor of Destro. What do you expect Order to do?
Exactly.
We can't level. Not even the small group players were complaining because like we can't do anything. We're just getting annihilated.
Well,
Actually, I'm glad you said that.
Go ahead.
Yesterday's Realm Watch. I don't know who on here may have seen it, but yesterday's Realm Watch was not one of my best efforts for the time that I've been doing it, and but I did notice that exactly what you're talking about, Tosh, is that there were what got me so frustrated so early in the stream is that there was nothing to cover. There were no fights to cover, and the whole point of Realm Watch is to try to promote, the fighting that goes on, to find those big clashing battles that take place between the war bands, And for the first 90 minutes, there was nothing going on, and the reason there was really nothing going on is exactly what you said. Order started out so outnumbered that there was just, they had just given up fighting. Now it changed later. A lot of people suddenly showed up on Order side, and in the fighting in Calador, there was a warband that was actually doing roaming that I followed for a while. They got into some really good fights, but I guess I may have to amend my comments to one degree and just say I guess that is one issue where the cross roaming might have had something to do with it. That Order was so outnumbered at one point. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in. So
Well,
but
hold on one second, Doom. One of the things I want to point out, because this did get brought to my attention and I had a chance to confirm it. 2 Order warbands that normally play on Order, Oath being one of them, was one of the case in point. They switched sides and went to Destro, and it tipped the balance even more. That's when I consider the X roaming a problem, is when you're basically doing that to manipulate things for no other reason than your own self-interest. It's not about gameplay then. Now you're just doing it because you're only thinking of yourself alone, and you don't care how bad it guts things. But it had the whole point of it is that at the height of the fighting, it literally, when it hit 300 plus, Order just said no more, and everything just collapsed, which brought the game to a standstill, because then nobody's getting anything. Yeah, all these people are on Destro. Well, guess what? What are you going to do? You got no way to earn any renown short of box running.
yeah, exactly. But that is the whole thing. Like when you do like an AO based realm lock, then your AO can never go at 300%, 200, right? Because you don't allow people to log into the Destro side in that case. And maybe some people get upset, but the majority plays both sides and they will log in Order to. They may be changed later on when the balance evens out, but that's the way how you're gonna address things like that, right?
Fair point. Anyone else care to comment?
No, I do have a counter question though.
Fire away, Jordy. Love to hear it.
Why do you guys think, without going into the meme of the devs favor X faction, why do you think? I feel like I hear this sometimes, not a lot. I hear it sometimes. What you guys are speaking on with the cross roaming being a problem, but I feel like with the cross roam problem, I think it's 90% Order that always gets screwed over by this. Why do you think Order more so? I would say more so than Destro. Cross roams to Destro, but you don't see the same Destro. They have some, but aren't exactly cross roaming to Order.
Well, in that regard, I can say from listening to more veteran players that have known for a while, Fixer, and one who's had time to analyze the sides. If you look at Destro's talent spread and the way their classes work, and the fact that, just to use this as an example, Choppas, their damage is stacks, meaning that if you have 20 or more Choppas running together in a pack, their damage stacks. It doesn't stack on Order.
It's not true.
Player
damage stacks as well as Chopper damage.
Hold on, Doomforce. I've seen it happen. I didn't think it was true either until I started paying attention to it once Fixer said something. There's case in point, Engineer. Their damage does not stack. So if you have 10 engineers doing their AoE abilities, you're only getting hits off of that individual engineer. It does not stack.
Maguses don't stack either, though.
And that's only partial not true, right? If you hit someone with an AoE dot, like these, I don't remember the engineer's name, they do stack. If you have them from 3 engineers, they tick. Only the ground AoEs.
Yeah, I was
They
gonna
don't
say that.
stack.
Well, the ground AoE, I mean, the napalm and the the phosphorus abilities, they don't stack. I've talked
Yeah.
to plenty of other engineers, and they've all noticed it.
Yeah, same on Destro side.
But it's just, and that's one of the reasons Destro runs that chopper ball constantly, is because they have that advantage with that stacking damage.
But you're comparing order
can't-
engineers with Destro choppers.
Yeah.
But when I tell you that Magos has the same thing, that it doesn't stack.
I'm not
Same as
comparing.
Slayers.
I'm not
It
comparing
doesn't.
that. I'm
It
just
doesn't
listening.
stack
Go ahead.
for Slayers.
I'm talking about the fact of that more of the stats favor Destro than they do Order.
Disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think that it actually favors Order, and people don't really concept build. For instance, I think the Witch Hunter is probably one of the biggest pivotal group members that is lacking right now. You don't see a lot of Witch Hunters in groups and warbands, and they are literally the anti-healer. Their M4 alone will shut down any group. So, witch elves don't get anything like that. I think a witch elf is a little bit more tank killing. So, to answer your question,
Go ahead.
though, Jordy, I think it's kind of like herd mentality. I think people just kind of see the wave of the orcs coming in, and the whole scary. Maybe this is just my own psychological perspective of it. It's just, oh, I'm attracted to the negative and everything. I don't really want to be structured and oriented in this pristine, citadel of positive, and so they're like, I'm gonna go do some bad, and I can do that on destruction. That or, they see the classes that they're weak against, and they're like, I'm gonna go support that. I don't really have a solid answer for that, because for me, when I play these games, like I'm task oriented. I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna try to get my Witch Hunter up. Okay, tomorrow I'm gonna get my Witch Elf up, and I'm gonna take whatever wins I get and whatever losses I get. So I think that's a very personal question that only the player can really ask themselves when they do that.
I think it's just an observation that I've had, because I was told when I started the game, the game ebb and flows on which population is dominant, but since I started, I feel like been mostly Destro, and maybe it's just especially during NA hours, because I play late night NA. It is incredibly Destro dominant, to the point where for a very long time, Destro consistently had Order had 120, 140% AAO, and that's what kind of pushed me to stop playing with groups in the first place, because War Torn Apathy was so oppressive. I was getting negative 75% gains every time I could play, right? So either I would just log off, or I would just quit playing with people because I didn't want to get punished, right? But I've never seen the population really go the other way. It feels like Order is always on the receiving end of hey, they just don't have enough people. I kind of just wanted to get your guys' opinions on it, because I didn't know if it was aesthetic, because I know some people prefer Destro aesthetic, or what I don't think it has really too much to do with balance in the sense, because it's there's, even if you're gonna have some people, it's I want to play the OP thing, I want to play Flavor of the Month or whatever, right? But I think it does have a bit to do with what you're saying. It's I do notice there's packs of Witch Hunters. Now I know Witch Elves do it too, but I don't know. I've been looking for an answer to this question for quite a while, and I think it's not harming the game, but I think it can be kind of anti-fun, and I don't really know how you fix it or why it's happening in general.
I can tell you why it's happening. That's simple. Witch Hunter and Witch Elf especially Witch Hunter, in my opinion, until they get gear, they have kinda a shit phase. If they are not running these parries back against melees, they are kinda in a bad spot. And if you have players which are not 100% on how to play Witch Hunter properly and having low gear, they are lacking on killing people. So what comes out of it, they get a friend, and then they're gonna attack the same dude they used to attack as one. They go for it with two guys and kill him. So until they reach a certain level, let's say partial Sov or Warlord or whatever Witch Hunter builds, and then they get their the opportunity to get more kills by themselves, and it should even more out, in my opinion.
Going back to the genesis.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, give me a minute. Yeah, going back to the genesis of the discussion here, the thing about balance or bias toward one side or the other. I don't think it's ever been true on the server that the developers have had a collective bias either for or against either side. I discussed once a few years back, as a result again of an unintended consequence, that some of that may have crept in, but since then I think that issue has been addressed. What I have always the gospel I have always preached when it comes to playing Order versus playing Destro is that, as a general rule, the Destro classes just tend to be more fun. And I'm not saying that's intentional. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that that's just sort of the way it is. I think that's one reason why when you pug scenarios, you always see far more destruction healers in there than you do Order as a general rule, because destruction classes, the healing classes, they're just more fun. They're just more fun to play. Archmages are, and I have a rank 40 Archmage, but they are so clunky. It's so much like work that I also have a doc, and the doc is just so much more fun to play. So I don't. Again, how would you address that problem? I have no idea. All I'm saying is that's just kind of how I see it. That sometimes the destruction guys are just having a lot more fun than the Order guys are, and that's why.
Do you think it comes down to aesthetic? Like, it feels better to be like, a chosen of Khorne swinging this giant sword versus like a knight of the blazing sun?
That too. I think that is part of it too. Knights are. I've played a knight on here, and again, archmages are clunky. It takes work to really get one to function properly. Knights right now are the same way. I got a buddy on my Twitch, Magic Thighs. Some of you may be familiar with him. He quit playing the game because his opinion is that knights were altered so much that there's just, they took all the fun out of the class. That's what he said. He said they took all the fun out of the class. Okay, did they mean to take all the fun out of it? Probably not, but that was the unintended consequence, right? And I think that perhaps kind of looking at it that way, because I can get on my witch elf and I have a blast. I have an absolute blast. I tried to level a witch hunter and got bored. Now again, that's anecdotal evidence, but that's just, I just think that's part of the issue. Is all. Destro's more fun.
It could be. I mean, all valid points from both sides of the fence. Part of what I'm basing what I said is off of listening to some players that have been here long before I was. And keep in mind, I've only been playing for a short time this time around. I played live and then disappeared, and I've been back about 3 years now. So I tend to defer to people that have been playing longer and have had time to crunch numbers and look at stuff.
Yeah.
But on my end, I play a lot. I started out playing NA times, and I saw how it could shift. Where it could be 1 minute be order, then it'd be destro, or it could be destro and order just constantly getting pounded. And then I switched to the EU play times, which most of the time in the mornings when I get on, destro has got 3 to 4 war bands in there just smashing order to the point order gives up. It just folds up shop, and they're like, there's no point. We can't do anything. And then it starts in with, well, this is boring, there's nothing to do. I'm like, well, when you have one side that basically railroads the other, that happens. And I don't care who does it, be it order or destro, it really does not help, because all it does is people are just like, there's no point. Go do something else. And if they can't find something to do, they leave the game. Alright, I think I'm going to take this opportunity for a short little intermission break for people to hit the gentleman's room, so to speak, and maybe prepare a second round of questions. And when we get back, I will see if chat has any questions for you guys. So, that being said, 5 minutes good with you guys?
Perfect.
5 minutes it is, gentlemen. We will reconvene shortly. Alright, guys. It is family friendly in the chat, Cares.
If we don't have any question in the chat, I would have one for you guys.
Let me check, see what chat's doing. Alright, chat. We're back from the break. I want to open the floor up to you guys. See if you have any questions for our assorted panel of streamers and players. So if anybody's got any questions at this time in the chat, feel free to voice them. If not, I will be turning the floor over to Doom so he can pose his question, and we will continue our topics of conversation. So here's your chance, chat. And would anybody else have any other questions too after Doom, or just so I know which order I'm going in?
Sorry, say again?
I said, aside from you, Doom, anyone else have any further questions they want to pose? That way I know which order to go in after you've asked yours and we've discussed it.
I may begin.
What'd you say, Karis?
Said Doom may begin.
Well, since chat hasn't said anything just yet, Doom, you have the floor. Let's hear it.
Okay, so, my question to you guys, I have my opinion on it, but I want to know yours. It's like, what does need to be addressed or need to be done to attract more people to it? Because clearly, to the game. Because clearly, like, when we had the first Lazy Peon wave, we had, like, so many people playing. The server was full over weeks and months. Now we had the second Lazy Peon wave, basically died after 2 weeks. And I understand that many people watched the first video, played the game already, and didn't come back a second time. But what is the reason? What do you guys think needs to be changed so there's this game gets more attractive to new players?
Well,
Wow.
I would say
ahead.
I'll go ahead and say something. One way that I would think that they could do it, and I've noticed every time they do it, I mean, it's only a short-term fix, but if it could be implemented in a more long-term way, because I know it's been mentioned in the past of doing like Twitch drops more frequently, the double XP, double renowns more frequently.
There's one thing with the double renown. We had it when there was the second Lazy Peon video, and it seemed to have a negative effect rather than a positive effect.
I didn't really
Like,
see
people were leveling so fast that they had no time to get any kind of crests for any decent gear. They reached 40 in like level 20 gear, and they had 0 crests. So in my opinion, double renown for new players is the worst thing you can have. A double XP and renown.
I think if you do a double experience event like that, you kind of have to give crest increase gains, because I've seen a lot of that too, where people were hitting 40. They're newer players. They're accidentally doing PvE. They're skyrocketing through, and they just can't get the crest for gear.
I've seen that myself. A lot of it is too people going in like with the SCs, because it happened during the last time we had it. Is you get a lot of your pre-mades and set groups, friends and stuff. They get together, they'll run the SCs, and they'll just farm the SCs for renown. And newer players coming in that are not geared or trying to get war crests, they're going to get chewed up because they're in there with a pug and they won't work together.
Are you navigating
Or they won't try.
waves of childhood cancer?
So, I mean, it can be good, but it can also be, there's good and bad to it. is what I feel on it. Go ahead, Karish. You or Nightman have any comments on it?
So, what needs to be addressed to increase population, right?
Yes.
Um,
Or to fix the issue that the pop is coming and leaving so fast.
well, I mean, obviously it's a collective thing, right? If the community doesn't support new players, then they're not going to want to stay. If the devs or the marketing team, see, I don't even know if they have a marketing team, but if the marketing team isn't constantly supporting new content in a way that
now you've hit a nerve.
well, no, I'm not. I mean, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, if there's nothing being posted on YouTube or Twitter, and I don't follow any of that stuff, so I can't really comment hard on it, then what's going to want to bring a new person in? I mean, it could be as simple as what is a green skin, and talking about how they reproduce. You know, how they put pretty much operate like a mushroom. You know, I think it's the creative aspect to attract the new. As for keeping the pop, next time we have one of these big waves, I don't know about anyone else, but I would probably remake a new character to start helping some of these newer players level up. I don't know if you guys know, but T1 chat gets turned off after you leave T1, which is dumb in my opinion, because maybe T1 chat needs help. Not everyone knows about it. I mean, yes, advice chat, but advice chat for me can get a little toxic sometimes. So,
to be fair, people being toxic in advice chat just needs to be punished. That's simple. Advice chat is to help people, not to be toxic.
We can get into that too, but ignore is my favorite button. And I don't keep them ignored. I treat it like a penalty box in hockey. You go in there for 5 minutes, and, well, for me, it's like usually a month. So I'll put someone on ignore for about a month. And then I'll kind of, revisit or clear my list and just kind of go operate that way. But yeah, I usually keep advice chat off because it gets overwhelming and I don't want to get sucked into it. And then I'm, arguing someone's point for 5 minutes on how they're wrong, and all they're doing is just trolling. So, yes.
Yeah, you found your solution to a problem which shouldn't be your problem.
Yeah. I mean, but I do turn it on because I know that's what people gravitate towards, and that's usually the biggest chat that you see in all tiers. But again, I think to really help or sustain population is more so on the community. Like, it's our responsibility to help, and I'm using the term noobs very lightly. So we got to convert the noobs into pros or into vets, and that only happens when you have people there that support that transition. As streamers, or at least as a streamer, I do my best to help anybody that comes in. And I'm not, like a lot of the streamers where I stream everything else. I just literally stream the video footage because that's what I want to operate on right now until I get to 40, and then I can eventually start hosting and, put video footage and make commentary and stuff like that. Because right now I just want people to focus on what the game is like. And my gameplay can get a little chaotic because I like pushing the line. I mean, I don't think a lot of new players understand the philosophy, and maybe this is just my own philosophy, but I think there's well-established formations that can occur or should be occurring anytime you push or you pull in Warhammer. If the tanks aren't facilitating their roles and DPS isn't properly assisting and healers aren't, transitioning forward, I mean, we're just smashing buttons at that point.
Good thing
And
that you mentioned
that for us to, take new players under the wing will keep them to stay longer. I mean, that's the only thing I can really say on what I can do to, or what can be addressed to increase pop or help sustain it.
Good thing that you mentioned like the streamers as aspect of like showing people how to do certain kind of stuff or being on the front line, let's say it like that. But on the other hand, the experience what you get when you watch most streamers is many of them doing the solo variant, and you have only a few streamers which are not as much as the solo streamers showing the other side. And if you are a new player, I can understand that it might be showing the wrong kind of side of the game, like encouraging the solo aspect of the game way too much than socializing, grouping, etc.
Well, to answer that question, Doom, and this I've seen this done time and again. That blame lies with the guilds and the war bands and even the small groups that have this insane mindset that streamers are the enemy. And I've heard it time and time again from Bitterstone, even from people in Gimli and in Tylax. They rage at streamers. It's like it's all our fault anytime something negative happens. Well, guess what? If you don't want to die, go play another game. We stream because we choose to. And that's why you see a lot of streamers that solo. It's because they got no choice, because they basically get blackballed.
I've experienced that.
Yeah, I can comment on that.
Yeah.
But I usually let whatever group I'm joining, I give them a heads up. Hey, I'm streaming right now. If you don't want me in, that's fine. If you want me to just manage the fights, I try to do that as well. Like there was a period where I'd put like something in the background or black out the screen to not give away position, because it is, again, it's a tactical game, and sometimes, I hate to say it, but your viewers might not be just viewing. They might be there doing reconnaissance as to where your location is.
I've seen it. But here's the other thing.
And that's kind of cool too, and I like that, because even in war, again, the philosophy of war, like there are spies, which kind of brings another element, but I don't think everyone's going to want to think like that. They want to keep as many advantages to their team or their side.
The other thing is too, even if you put something up to block block it where they can't see where you exactly are, there are so many add-ons that shout out where your location is, and all it takes is for somebody to see you. And that's it. And it'll broadcast your location to everybody in that zone. So honestly, whether you're streaming or not, it doesn't matter. One side or the other is going to know where your warband's at, because they watch for them. So this insane mindset that it's all the streamer's fault, blame the streamer, run the streamers off. That's the rule. No, that's not the rule. That's what you put in place because you're afraid to die.
I got a couple points, please.
Go ahead.
I think it was Doom a minute ago who, a couple minutes ago, mentioned whether or not Warhammer had a marketing team. And
that was me.
Yeah, okay. The direct answer to that is yes and no. A couple of programs over time have been put in place. The first was the Realm Champion program, which was horrid. It was I've said this since this has been my position. It was a bad idea from inception to create a group of people and call them Realm Champions and have them in their own little private Discord that nobody else could get into talk about what changes needed to be made. So you had 16 guys. They picked one Realm Champion for each class, right? And those were the only guys who got to talk about what should be done. Okay, eventually they junked that because it caused a lot of negative backlash. And they moved to the community manager program, which is still in effect. The community managers are supposed to be, quote, the marketing guys, as you were talking about, people who, in one way or another, are supposed to try to promote the welfare of the server. Okay. It's nice to have a program like that. The issue isn't that they have a program like that. The issue is who they put on the frickin' program. The lead community manager right now, as I speak, is a guy who doesn't even play the frackin' game. And when he did, he spent all of his time in Discord, because I used to be in the same guild with this guy. He spent most of his time calling the player base trash players and shit players and mongoloids and papegas, and half of them should.
It's in family-friendly mode, so kind of ixnay on the... Yeah, I forgot to put it in mature. That's...
I mean, you guys are all great. Because, I respect the fact that all of you are here trying to promote the game and the server. I really do. I mean that. But there, there are some elements to the server that just really upset me, and that is one aspect of it. That they put people out there to represent the server who obviously don't really care about it. So that would be, in my opinion, that would be the issue that would have to be addressed first. Is that, if you want to have guys that are supposed to be, quote, community managers, make sure you pick people that actually want the community to prosper, as opposed to their very own clearly articulated goal of driving off as many people as they can, because then they think the server would be a better place. I find that just it's insane when promoting the welfare of a game like this to hype people who don't care about it. All of us obviously do, or we wouldn't be here on this little podcast. But anyway, and someone else just a couple minutes ago, my mind is... give me a moment. Somebody else said something a minute ago that I wanted to talk, but it has slipped through the holes in my head. So,
no worries.
Someone else take it away.
Anyone else care to comment or want to share thoughts on it?
You can come back anytime.
I don't really have a whole lot to say as far as that goes, but like, I know some people have expressed their grievances to me about not the way the current community manager has worded certain things, where in the sense that, like, I do think community manager job is extremely hard, because you're basically the microphone for the devs, but you have to like put it in a way that is going to be very neutral. Yeah, constructive and neutral, where like you don't want to obviously look like you're taking sides. And I know some people recently we brought it up in the last podcast, had some issues about some of the community manager Facebook posts, in the sense that like it's kind of from the Destro point of view, and it's not like 50-50.
Yeah.
Stuff like that typically doesn't bother me, but like, I know it's upsetting some people, but however, what I will say, in comparison to like even like 3 months ago, we are getting a ton more transparency from our community managers. So like, I don't necessarily think it's, hey, we need to pick better community managers. I think it's a hard job, and it's like, I don't think a whole lot of people are trying to sign up for like, having a pretty rough job with no pay.
I'll say something on this line. Whether it's a hard job or not doesn't matter. It's volunteer you're volunteering your time. The same way I volunteer my time to do the stuff I've done of my own accord with the guides and videos. But the thing I have to stress, and I've been on other projects, the thing is, when you say something, when you're in a community management position or anything to do with the staff, what you say can have a negative effect. So you have to remain neutral. So even sitting there saying stuff jokingly, it gives the perception that there's favoritism, and people pick up on it. So they start trying to say, okay, well, if this person has those feelings towards that side, maybe we can, get something out of them. You don't want to even begin to open that door, and that's what's been done. That door has been allowed to be opened, and you've got people that are driving home the devs, the staff, they favor Destro because this person's saying that, and people take it to heart, so they start looking to see what, if anything's being changed, and if something changes, they throwing this out there, take the Mara pull, the fact that it's been broken for so long, and it still lets them, you got them abusing it, and the fact that nothing's been done about it, people only see that as reinforcement. Oh, they really do favor Destro. That's...
There we go. You guys are talking about the majority. You're talking about the community managers as if knowledge of them is common. And again, I could be wrong, but I'm just not sure that that's true. Where would somebody go to hear what the community managers have to say?
I mean, you have the. I'm pretty sure we have the RoR Twitter. We have the RoR Facebook. I know Clang has been making some pretty active posts on the forums and stuff. And they're all pretty active on like Discord, but I know Discord is something not everyone's like actually goes and reads all like the Discord banter and stuff like that, right? It's just like I typically get bored at work, so I'm always like on the forums or something. So I pretty much read almost everything ROR related because I just want tons of like ROR content. But it's just like little things I pick up and stuff like from there that I've like seen like grievances with different members of the community. I don't know, it's a hard line because I feel like as far as the devs go, I feel like I want them to feel where they can be themselves, but then it's like they have to have a certain air of I guess professionalism about them too, or else people kind of can things can get taken the wrong way. And I don't know, it's a hard, I feel like that's a really hard line to kind of toe. So I don't know, I just kind of really appreciate them for everything they do and stuff like that, right? Because I know it is a very hard job, and here I am just like, hey, I just want to play the game.
Payline came on the Realm Watch again a week ago. And it was great for me to finally to be able to talk to one of those guys. And he was very level-headed. He seemed very excited about the game. And so since you brought his name up, I wanted to make the point that he was not the guy I was talking about specifically. I'm just, but I don't know. I've been out of the. It sounds strange, I suppose, but my 16-year-old son, Techno, has more of an insight to the inner workings of the server than I do. And even though I do Realm Watch, nobody ever talks to me. And I have to go on what I see on Discord and stuff that's printed. And I don't quite understand that, but anyway. Sorry, I digressed.
I would say this, that it sounds like a more a structure is an order. For instance, if the head community manager had someone that was a order community manager and a destruction community manager, and then within those order and destruction, a greenskin, a dark elf, etc., etc., etc. I think that might facilitate the negation of biasness. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a free job, which I understand, but it's there to, bring the community together. And if they're not doing that by picking a side, I don't think that they're doing their job.
I think. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, which was my point when I talked about this. The last time I saw this guy post on the forums, he had a what do you call a little undercard thing, where he was advertising himself as lead community manager, and I thought, what a fracking joke. But anyway, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think what I'm referring to is was like one instance, right, where they were posting from the POV of a Destro character, right? And maybe it was a community submission, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna share this, community submission," right? Like, I don't know the actual story behind it, but like that was just like something like I've seen like. I guess like the Pandora's box of the whole thing is, if we ask them to be uber professional and hey, look, you can't take any, you can't be a person basically, then they'll just quit interacting, right? Because like, why would every time I interact there's a problem, why would I interact at all, right? I know, so one thing that I know I get sometimes I get some hate and say Jordy's a dev simp or whatever. So maybe I'll just continue that persona just simp for the devs, right? I've seen a lot of people complain that I went on the forums and Wargrimmer is kind of an asshole or whatever. But you know what? I like the fact that Wargrimmer is so active and so willing to kind of openly just kind of speak his mind, because I think the worst thing would be if we get to a point where he feels like, oh, you know what, it's drama every time I even go on the forum, so I'm just not going to go there anymore. Because I've seen in previous MMOs I played where every time a developer went on Reddit or went on Twitter, there was community backlash, there was drama, so they're like, okay, I'm just not going to do that anymore. So then you get no transparency and no insight to who's making your game, right? And I think that's kind of worst case scenario. So I guess I'm on the side of, even if it's not perfect, at least they're bothering to read our feedback and feel the need to even give us the time of day, right? So I don't know, maybe I'm being huffing copium and be like, oh no guys, the devs are really good, but you know what I mean? It's I think the worst, they're like, hey look, I'm just not going to interact or go in Discord or go in the forums whatsoever.
We have people who, when they post in places where they think no one else but their little core of friends will see them, and when they post and they're talking about the forums, they talk about they reveal themselves as to who they really are, as to what they really think of the server and the people who play it. But then they come out in an open forum and they're all completely different. It's a very two-faced system. And Wargrimmer's not, and that's why I appreciate Wargrimmer, because he is who he is, and you can tell who he is because he's always the same. Okay, I will shut up now.
Oh, maybe I'm just on principle too much, but when you associate specific titles, with specific roles, then you're going to get a certain type of response. Community manager, is a very specific thing, and I think, and because I'm not backpedaling, right? If this particular person wants to side with one side, then it should be known that he's going to, come from this particular point. And at the same time, also let it be known that there's not going to be a bias to the structuring of one side being better than the other. Because at the end of the day, you just want someone that's going to be fair, And if that requires them to choose one side over the other, then so be it. But at the end of the day, if their goal is to be as fair as possible, because again, it's a free server, these guys aren't getting paid, or these people aren't getting paid for their time and energy, we can't really complain that much, but we can require a certain level of professionalism for them.
Slight interruption, guys. If you will, please watch what you say language-wise. I did not get to put it in mature mode, and I also have sponsors watching, so it can kind of get me in trouble with the adult language, if you don't mind.
Yeah, what did I say?
Not you. I was referring to what Jordy just said a minute ago with the Warburton there. Watch what you say cuss word wise, if you don't mind, because I have it in family friendly mode.
Yes, sir. But to get back on topic, I think the restructure of the marketing would just be a little bit better for the community.
I agree.
Feels like we all need to volunteer more.
There's one other aspect of it that sort of ties in that I could ask you guys about. The whole GM angle. I think one of the reasons that North American Primetime kind of suffers a bit is there's rarely ever a game master on. And I've actually thought about volunteering, right, to do that during certain hours of the week during NA Prime to be a game master, because I just think it would help if there was someone that players could talk to if an issue came up. So that's kind of my question. I mean, do you guys agree with that, or what? Do you think that would help, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, one game master, in my opinion, doesn't make any big difference, but putting actually more and new game masters into the game, that you have a couple of people online as GMs, so the people can turn to them if they have an issue, would definitely be beneficial. But yeah, I guess that's up to the devs if they want to enlarge the team in that direction.
I can answer that question for all parties in that field, because I did actually apply for the GM position and was told by Wargrim himself, streamers will not be considered for any reason.
I can understand why.
Because they feel that we would be playing favorites to curry views.
Man.
So the answer that you will get out of an application is no. And War is the one that handles all of that. And that's what
I think.
Go ahead.
I think that needs to be addressed, because, again, it's a free server, right? So, I mean, there's specific roles that just need to be fulfilled. Like on live, if you were to even submit a ticket or anything, your response time would at least be a window. And if it wasn't a window, then you could at least go to email or chat support or do whatever you needed to do to get an answer. You can't really do that here.
I agree.
And that takes away from overall gameplay. So if they're concerned about gameplay, then they need to find a way to structure so that there is someone either on 24. I mean, it's a simple, and I think this was mentioned. Yeah, it was mentioned in last week's podcast. If you had someone on during specific times, you could at least know that you could, talk to somebody. And sometimes that's the only thing needed is just to, getting your point across or making your concerns heard. Sometimes can fix the solution.
It's also a difference if there's GMs online and people know there's GMs online, they are behaving differently. Like they are not trolling
Exactly.
in advice chat or whatever. If they know, I maybe shouldn't because there's a GM might watching me, right? And to the other
Good
thing
point.
with
It's like when the cops are driving behind you, you're not speeding, but you're definitely going to be more aware of your speed then.
exactly, and if you know there's to no times a GM, well then you don't care, right? But the thing is, to exclude streamers or not, it doesn't really make a big difference in my opinion. The thing is, they need to publicly broadcast that they are willing to, for example, put on 10 new GMs in GM positions. And not like, oh, there's this one guy that decides, I want to be a GM and reach out to one of the devs. That doesn't make a difference. They need to be the active part.
I'm not quite sure if you wouldn't. I mean, the streamers would not be allowed to be GMs because they think we'd be biased. I'm not 100%. I mean, I understand, of course, what you're saying, and I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying I don't understand exactly the rationale for why we would be any more biased or any less biased than anybody else.
Because most stream. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
Well, no, I just to say, what is the connection there?
The connection is that if you're streaming and you're a GM and whatnot, depending on which side you're doing your GM duties on, there's gonna be people that they'll pick up on it and they will try to curry favor. Either they'll try to bribe you with donations or anything like that, and that's a legitimate concern because you got some streamers that would pick up on it like, well, hey, if people are willing to slip me a little bit of extra money, I'll maybe do something to show a little favor to them. And there's streamers that would do it.
Yeah, or not even publicly like acting like that, but let's say there's a dude in your chat named 123, for example, right? And he just dropped a 50 sub bomb to your channel. Now an hour later, there's this 123 dude in region chat saying something that used to be a ban, timeout, whatever. If you're the streamer and the GM, you always have that thought in your mind, oh, this dude just give $250 to me. Now, if I mute him now, that is like, there's like this threshold, And I think they just don't want to deal with that kind of things.
I mean, just a couple of things. That to me, that's an integrity thing, right? If you're going to sign up for a particular position, absorb the whole role or don't. And if they're concerned about getting bribes, that can still happen. Like I don't see why streaming is going to determine or dictate.
Well, I feel like streaming is less about bribing. It's more of a conflict of interest. Like you could be considered like, hey, I'm going to put a platform. Hey, I'm streaming the game. So, but I'm also like, a GM. So I could use it as a platform to kind of elevate my stream. And then since I'm getting monetary gain from streaming, like I'm using the game for monetary gain where like no other GM or anything is even getting paid, right? Like I completely understand why. I do think they should use streamers a bit better, but I completely understand why they would not want a streamer being a GM.
Yeah, I mean, listening to you guys, I see the point. I mean, I don't. In my particular case, on my stream, I don't have subs enabled because I just didn't want to mess with the, the whole money aspect. But even so, even though that's true, I understand your point that.
I mean, let me make a counterpoint. I don't mean to cut you off.
All right.
I'm not going to call the guy out, but I've had donations to my stream before of people just trying to kind of. Now, I'm not a big streamer at all. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I'm this amazing streamer. But it's just people trying to get me to rate them with some of like my viewers, like the end of one of my streams. And it's like they you see what I'm saying? That's just for like a raid to get views, much less have a GM as a platform, right? Like I completely get it. It's like people will try to use things as a platform rather than actually doing the job. So I completely agree with their kind of like stance on it.
I don't know. I think if the structure of the GM was a little specific, as well as certain guidelines, it could be something that anyone can do. Because, I mean, if you're streaming your GM time, right, and I don't know how any of this works, then that's an issue.
Well, they have a application for it up on the forums that lists the requirements they're looking for, and it pretty much outlines that you have to have the type mentality that you would ban your own mother if she broke a rule. So that to there speaks to the fact that yes, they're looking people with integrity. The problem is that it would only take one bad apple to upend everyone, and it's just not a gamble they're willing to take.
Yeah, and I think the permaban bar has been set a little low. I mean, I agree that there are some things that people can do on a server like this that certainly warrant a perma ban, and I don't have to list them because anybody with any sense knows what I'm talking about. But sometimes I think there have been a few people who've gotten a perma ban a little quickly, I suppose. And
I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
To that topic,
Speaking of which, we have the CM, we have one of the community management in my stream chat right now, Kalang. And to answer your question, it's going. We've been talking about a variety of different subjects and getting some feedback from the community and fellow streamers and players. Continue, guys.
So to give you an answer to that, it might happening that they ban people straight out for nothing, but I'm not sure about that. But I've been reading myself into that thing too, and apparently they run some sort of escalating system for bans, which basically means, for example, you get timeout for saying a bad curse word for the first time for 1 hour. The next time it will be 3 hours. The next time it will be 1 day. And so on and so forth. Technically, you can use the same curse word, and it will end up getting you a permaban if you use it 20 times, or let's say 10 times, and you get punished for it 10 times. The 10th ban is a permaban now. And that's the system they're running. Is it a good system? I don't think so, because you can get banned for minor things. But on the other hand, if you get banned or get punished 10 times for saying the same curse word, you're not really smart, right?
I mean,
Well, there's some truth in that, yeah.
I think I've mentioned this before, but I just think it would be too much work, and I think they're kind of like don't have the manpower as it is. But like, I feel like one of the negative parts is a lot of people will go and say, I got banned for, kicking a can, right? And what they like fail to tell you is, yeah, I kicked this can and broke 2 windows with it, right? So they leave the window part out. I feel like, as far as permabans, I wouldn't really say, but I say permabans. I kind of wish sometimes that like there was a way to like have it a bit more transparent in the sense that like, hey, why was this person actually banned, right? Because I've had people come into my stream and say, hey, I was banned for X. It's not even that bad, and you know what I mean? It's like I feel like a lot of people who are getting banned aren't telling the 100% truth.
They used to do that. There was a section of the forums called ban appeals. I think the sub forum itself is still there. It just hasn't been used in a long time. But they used to do exactly that.
They should list bans, especially like perma bans or bigger bans. They should list them, so it also gives some sort of transparency to the community. Like, and it also has a, I'm not sure if I'm finding the right words now, but a threatening behavior. Like when people see it, that people got banned for doing such things, they may be thinking twice of doing it. But if people just see a simple ban message in a fast-going chat that some days, well, was permanently banned for, yeah, that's it. Sometimes not even a reason, sometimes for ban evading. So what was he ban evading for? No? What was the original ban? Nobody knows. So it's kind of like you're missing the points on the bans don't have that effect. Then don't tell anyone that you ban one, right? Why put it in a chat then? Either you do it completely to have the effects of threatening or to show the people that they are handling things, and yeah, I don't think I get the point across. Sorry.
Well,
my only gripe. Go ahead.
I just say the ban appeal subforum used to be the most fun place to go and read the forums, the ban appeals and that, and I think Torque ran that back when he was here, but the issue is exactly what Doom. That was you, right? That was just talking.
Yes.
Is the murky, the sometimes murky nature of why someone was banned. Nobody's really sure.
Exactly, and
I could throw a name out. But there's a guy who comes into my Twitch a lot who is currently banned, and he's appealing to try to get back in. But I have no idea what actually led to his particular ban, and before I stick my head in the middle of something like that, because he's in my Twitch all the time, and before I stick my head in the middle of it, it would be kind of nice to know, okay, well, what did the guy actually do, But go ahead.
My only gripe with chat or the filter system that they implemented was, so I mistyped something because I was being attacked, and I got a 1 hour ban on that, which I don't care because I'm
aggressive.
But yeah, all I was saying was get to the flag, and I think we can all kind of think what happened.
I mean, I think I like it.
Or go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I just wish that there was something a little bit more. I don't know, maybe I'm just asking for too much. Just a better system, just a better way to like.
Well,
because if it escalates and I just have a consistent amount of mistypes or something like that. Because.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jordy.
No, I was just going to say the reason that system's in place is because there was a guy who got upset because he got banned, and we come in, like, especially late night and 8 hours at night when, like, the GMs were offline, and just spam racist, homophobic stuff constantly until we basically begged someone and woke a GM up to, like, come ban him, please, so we wouldn't have to deal with it, because he would, like, the guy was, like, he was speed running making accounts because he was just getting banned left and right and just had a new account like every 5 minutes. It was insane. But like that's the reason a system like that is in place. That's the only thing I was going to say. It's like I get what you're saying, but it's like at the same time for that kind of situation, I think I would rather the current system than kind of what it was.
To me, it sounds more like a Band-Aid, you know.
I get why the system. Hold on a second, Nate. I get why that chat system's put in, but it's too aggressive because I mean I like to RP and stuff with some of the stuff I say when I'm on my Dowie, and it blankets out some of the words I say that's got nothing to do with being aimed at anyone. It's following the lore.
That was going to be a point, is if I want to like talk a certain way for the sake of RP, you know, which I only do on my greenskins because God, it's fun to talk like a greenskin. I might say something that the system just won't allow, and now I'm penalized for it. And if it's an escalating thing, now my account has a possibility of being permabanned. So it's just, that's an issue. Secondly, I think if we're going to permaban somebody, there should be some type of court system. Let the people decide, you know? And
be amazing.
I think the forum platform would be a great place to do that. Everybody has access to their account. I mean, you could even have the devs summon 12 people for a jury if it's one of those ones.
No.
But
the Warhammer.
You know, I'm just.
Oh, wait. The
I'm
Warhammer
just throwing out ideas.
Court.
Yeah. Make it a stream.
Awesome, man.
Just get some, you know, awesome. Like, marketing team, get on this. But I'm just saying, like, there needs to be a more logical approach to a lot of things. Because one player being lost could literally take out 6, 12, 24. If they're a pivotal person in a guild, in a group, in a realm. So I think there just needs to be a little bit more of an understanding versus, you know, listening to the people that are just constantly saying this.
Yeah, especially if people don't know why they are. For example, the thing you just said with losing like 6, 7, 8, 10 people. When the people don't know what he's banned for, he can basically play the victim and says, oh, it was not reasonable, whatever reason I got banned for, la 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 bullshit, right? But
language.
Yes, sorry. But in fact, he was banned for some real severe reason, right? But he's not gonna tell anyone, and if nobody knows where to look, or there's no way to look, he can play his role and you lose people over it or whatever. I think transparency is key in that kind of situation.
Okay, real quick thing, Kalang just posted something in my chat if you guys are paying attention to it, but I'm going to read it out. I'm pretty confident, 99%, that the automated chat mutes don't escalate themselves and you won't be permanently banned without a manual review. The system is there to direct people who are constant offenders or trying to navigate being toxic. If people can see themselves being muted over time, they learn to not be toxic anymore, and we've got actual results to show that the automated chat mute system has decreased a lot of the toxicity behind the scenes without needing manual approval on everything. He also says which risks messages / toxic people getting through if no GMs is on. Also, ban appeals are still there. They just aren't public, which the ban appeals are there, and they just took out the public access of it.
Just to my understanding, a ban appeal is the thing. When I get banned, I write to the GMs to unban me, right? But yet it is not a post where you say, this dude got banned for this and this, right? Or am I wrong now?
It doesn't post it publicly the reason why you were banned. You can't see the reasoning for it. It's just the ban. You put the ban appeal request in and it gets heard.
Exactly, but in my opinion, we need like a section of a forum where the bans are listed and the reasons for it. That should have a better impact than secrecy.
So had hooked my headset up. Go ahead.
I agree with the point. I mean, at the end of the day, if I don't like someone that the way they talk or how they're talking or they're too toxic or whatever it is, I just put them on ignore. So I think we just need to use the ignore button more.
And another thing to the escalating system, it is a okay system, but I also would like to see, like, for example, if I haven't done anything in the last year, I'm still at the same threat level, for example, to be permabanned if I had 9 stakes, right? But I behaved perfectly fine for a year or longer. And then we all know you get heated in PvP or whatever, and then you make one mistake and you get your permaban. I think there should be, like, after a certain time, it should also decrease instead of staying at the same level for the eternity.
One more thing from Kalang. I guess my only question is to that is why, without being rude here, just curious as to how it would help the community to see what a person was banned for.
I can answer you that. That is plain simple. It's the same reason why you posting punishments of criminals in the newspapers, because people needs to see that something is happening. People needs to learn, well, if that dude got banned, I cannot say it now, but for that reason, and they read it and they see it and they see that something is happening when they do that, and they might considering next time when they are at the edge of maybe doing something, not to do it. Because
basically,
it has the effect.
You're saying they'll rethink their stance on it before doing it, which will encourage them to behave themselves, to know that, hey, this is what's waiting for you if you cross that line.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that is like in the people's eyes, you know, if people see something, it is more effective than people just vaguely know if I may be that, you know.
Yeah, I got
That's
you.
the difference.
It's a valid point, you know. When you see a ban go out, but there's no actual reason, or you don't know a reason, you're left wondering, well, was it a legit ban or was somebody just being personally motivated? That way, if you put it out there and say this person was banned for this reason, while it might be a little bit more work on the end of the person issuing the ban to do that, it would still be a valid point because it reinforces, hey, your actions carry a direct response if you cross a line. This is what happens when you cross that line.
Exactly. And also there's no reason for us to like be very careful to people that deserve the ban, to like say, oh no, we're not gonna tell the community why you got banned for because of because of your personal feelings. Well, you got banned. No, stand up for it. It's get made public, even in the game. If you happen to be there and read it, you might know why he got banned for. But for example, there was a somewhat famous dude banned on Destrosite lately. I knew him, and I didn't know what he was banned for, but I know he was banned. But there was no way for me to figure out why he was banned, and that leaves people thinking, was it reasonable? Why would he get banned and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. A logical person, the first thing they're going to be like, well, was it a legitimate ban? What would it ban for so that I know not to do it? Or whatnot. It helps them understand. It's deductive reasoning on the part of the general population, and it just, I agree, it would be better to have that transparency out there so that those that are looking to cause trouble in the community, hey, guess what? Your days are numbered, versus those people who are here to actually have fun and enjoy and promote the community, not sit here and just look for reasons to be destructive.
And I mean, it all goes back to that accountability. You know, if we're able to hold them accountable. So say like in this, wherever these things would be posted. I can make an opinion. I see something similar happening to that. I can warrant a response that says, hey, you're on track to get banned, or, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that. I just see it being a positive, knowing why particular individuals were banned, because if not, like we've been saying, it's all hearsay. And the big thing with hearsay, and I don't know if any of you guys played telephone in kindergarten, but you'd whisper something to someone else and they'd whisper it to someone else. It's either going to possibly change or get bigger or get smaller, or by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, they got banned for that. I didn't even know you can get banned for that. And it's like, that's Z when it was actually A. You kind of see the thread that I'm talking about?
Yeah. Not only that, but those people that do get banned can't lie about what they got banned for, because it's very easy. For me to get banned, if I got banned tomorrow and be like, oh my God, Jordy got banned, what he got banned for? I'm like, oh, I can just make a reason and say, yeah, I said I'll never play Order, and they banned me for like not wanting the cross realm, and people were like, you know what I mean? You get just spread false narrative.
All right, one
I heard Jordy's
one slight interruption so I can read Kalang's response, because he is answering you guys. So I guess I can understand where you're coming from. However, I want to defend Wargrimnir and the GM team on this. Every single ban I have ever seen the back reports of, I have very much been deserved. A lot of the players like to say, oh, I was banned unfairly, which stirs the idea that people on the GM team have bias. But when you actually see the reasons, it's very much valid. I get that it's hearsay, I guess, but I can categorically say that they're valid in 99% of the cases. I've even argued against them in cases just for confirmation, because I don't think they're valid based on information from the player. And when I'm given the evidence, I'm like, oh, okay, yes, this makes total sense.
Okay, that is a good statement. So if there's 99.9% chance, or if it is like that they are reasonable, then why not make them public so everybody can see with their own eyes that you've done a good job by removing those individuals out of the community?
In other words, it allows...
beneficial.
Yeah. So what you're saying, in other words, and if I understand this, I apologize about cutting you off. Basically, you're saying by putting it in the public, it allows the community to stand behind the GMs and support
Yes.
the staff. That, hey,
Of course.
The staff's looking after the community is supporting the staff because they know that there's a system in place and it's valid reasons.
Let's say, for example, you ban a dude because he used racial slurs, right? Which is 100% legitimate ban. But if nobody knows, then nobody knows, right? But why not make it public? There's no reason to have it secret. That is 100% reasonable ban. Just post it like that, and everybody will agree, and the people will see. In Germany, I was saying, we see your money at work. People will see that you're doing your jobs, and they agree, and they're gonna like it.
I'm gonna parallel again, but using the Warhammer court analogy I brought up earlier. If the devs are considered the judge, right, and you have the people that are saying that this person needs to be banned, and this other person is found guilty or not guilty, the devs aren't even tied into any of this. We've all decided as a community that this person has been using these slurs, has been using whatever they're being accused of, and it also rebuilds our community, because I think that's what it is. At the end of the day, and I'm going to keep saying this, it's a free server. None of this matters unless there's a player base. And if the player base is too toxic and we're not holding them accountable, what can we do? What are we going to do? At some point, something needs to be implemented for us to know. Otherwise, again, it's just that hearsay. And we're going to keep wrapping around these issues over and over again. It's going to be someone else with the same or similar issue. and the devs are going to get their fingers pointed at them. People are going to get their fingers pointed at them. When at the end of the day, it's all accountability.
I got you. Well, just to follow up, because Colleen, like I said, they're actively answering you guys. I don't know the official answer as I'm not part of the GM team, but we always give the option to reform unless in extreme circumstances, and by showing all of their previous offenses means they'll receive toxicity from the community. It'll turn into a grab your pitchfork if they ever come back, which I get that point of it. That's the downside to making their ban and what got them banned public, because then it literally mob mentality, because people in the community are going to feel like, well, I need to do something. Even if the ban was already done, they're still going to make a go at them, or they're going to make goes at anyone that was known to associate with that person.
Don't those people dance with the opportunity of being banned themselves for harassment?
I mean, if people are like, doing stuff like that and being toxic, I mean, toxicity still needs to kind of be looked at, I think. I'm not really a fan of the whole like mob, because like if you say like, players should have an opinion on who gets banned and stuff. I do think there's so many, like you take a person like Lutz, right? And it's like, oh, he's on trial. Bro, they're hitting the death penalty. Even though I think Lutz is a great guy and a good force for the game. Right? It's like I rather have it up to the GMs, but like I do think like say I'm not saying it had to be every case also. I'm just saying on some of the bigger, I guess, cases, like having like full transparency would be nice. Just so people can't lie. Like, imagine this. Imagine if because like for instance, right? Let me share an example since I've been in the game. Brotherman Bill got banned. At first, it was permanent for kill trading, and then it came out where he showed like, hey, he was just like doing, they were trying to get an achievement by killing chickens, right?
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, you know what? That's not nearly as bad. Whereas, like, when it first came out that he got permabanned, his community grabbed the pitchforks and just wanted to slay somebody, right? And it's like, if we were just like very like transparent about this entire issue, I feel like one. It probably wouldn't have been a problem in the sense of like, hey, like, you know what, this is the whole like, here's all the evidence, here's our action, and here's why he's just getting banned for like 7 days. However, I feel like what it's going to come down to is, like I said, like I'm not sure, do we really want our like, development team putting in that much effort into like making this full transparency? I know I would want it, but like I think at the same time, I kind of want them working on like the bigger fish, right?
That's something that you would honestly, if you did go that route, the best way to handle that. Don't tack it on to what your staffs are doing. If you were really going to do it, his best suggestion would be to try and recruit people specifically to deal with that, so you're not diverting your staff that's already working on stuff into another area.
Or even a simple request form. You meet a certain amount of so say person gets banned, it needs 250 requests for it to go to trial or whatever. Like, there's a structured system to this. It doesn't need to be more work, but being shown the evidence determines my opinion. Otherwise, it's just hearsay, and I'm like, okay, what can I do besides support somebody or something for what they feel is wrong or right? Because it's removing.
Mind. Go ahead.
No, finish.
Well, I was gonna say I don't mind so much like a central controlling authority when it comes to bans. What I agree with you guys on, and what I would also advocate for is that the reasons be posted. The reasons be made transparent, because then that would solve a lot of issues before they came up. If we could read, okay, player XYZ said he hoped that all people of of this ethnic group would die. Okay, we can all understand that, right? And that would prevent player XYZ from saying that he, like you said, well, I only got banned because I was yelling at somebody in chat about getting to the flag. So I don't mind. I really don't mind that like Kaling is saying that it's it's a central sort of our authority that does it, but I do think they should bring back the ban appeal form and put the information out there.
Clang just answered you on that, Karis. He said, but would that be nice to see publicly, or would you rather us deal with it?
The only reason, it's not that, I don't see it as a question of being nice to be able to, what I see it as, it would just prevent, again, and going back to my example of, since you mentioned Brother Man Bill, I'll mention Yamcha. Yamcha does spend a lot of time in my Twitch. He's been banned, and and there are people who have got this free Yamcha movement going on. And my position with it is, it's hard for me to stick my head into that, and insert my opinions on whether or not he should be brought back, because I have no idea what he did. I have no idea what he did to get banned, right? And I can't. So I'm not going to stick my head out. I'm not going to stick my neck out, so to say, to try to get him instated back in the game when I have no idea what it is that got him banned anyway. Yeah. So that's my point, is that it would just be nice to know, to have somewhere to go to say, okay, this is why the guy got banned. Then you can say, okay, well, I can certainly understand that. Or like in Brother Man Bill's, I was involved in the Brother Man Bill thing, because when I found out that he got banned for they were both chickens. They were fighting each other as chickens so that they could get a title of you killed 100 chickens or something. Who cares about that? Who cares about chicken titles? They weren't doing anything that affected, the game. They really didn't gain anything but a title. So I agreed that Brother Man Bill should come back, but
well, Kling's further answered, the point being we already prevent it proactively with the automated system as well as player reports. By writing all these comments publicly, it shines light on it instead of it never being seen.
I think what I would want if this ever came down, because this is all just like, hey, like this is something we would like, right? I wouldn't want some poor guy having to type out every single time someone said a no word. But like in a case where it's, hey, a Yamcha or a Jumping Jack or some of these other people, like, hey, look, today, blah 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 got banned. Here's why, and here's the evidence. So like they can't say like, oh, you know what, this guy, no one can say this guy was kind of unfairly banned or whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, and because like I said, some poor guy would have to type up and do all this, and it's a lot of work, bro. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of people get banned, but I have noticed over time, lots of people getting banned, and I think that's a lot of man hours.
I don't know. I mean, if I were to do something like that, I would implement some type of code that would just automatically post to the forum or something. Again, to me, it's just a structured thing. If that's what we wanted, but I think we should be able to request them, at least to make a better decision onto what or who I want to support in that sense.
Hey, Aquarius. Klang's answer would be, wouldn't that suggest favorability, though, as it would suggest that some people are of higher status than others, and therefore certain bans should be dealt with differently. And I see where Klang is coming with that, because that's what it would do if you made distinctions in cases. You either have to have it uniform across the board, or it's not going to work, because people will pick up on the fact that you're playing favorites because, oh, well, this person's more well known. We're basically going down a rabbit hole with this. I mean, we could play devil's advocate for both, being public with it and not being public with it. It's one of those. It's just a conversation. I don't think there's ever going to be a right answer.
Yeah, I think no matter what you do, you could go and list 15 people have been banned, and here's why, and people will be like, well, they're not showing all the bans. Like there's always going to have those people that like the devs can do no right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is just something I think I would personally like, in the sense of like, say like some of like the other people, but like I wouldn't want some poor guy writing every time some 13-year-old downloads the game. It says an edgy word.
All right. Well, I don't want to continue with that particular conversation too much, because, like I said, it's a rabbit hole conversation, and I'm not saying anyone's wrong and I'm not saying anyone's right, because there's pros and cons to it. I think we would all agree there.
Yeah, for sure.
I just don't think there's a right answer no matter what we say or do. So on that note, I am going to move things along. Chat, do you have any questions for our assorted guest speakers? If not, I'll open the floor up to any other questions that want to be posed.
Real quick, I actually have to bounce. I have work soon, so I will talk to you guys later.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show on this episode of the RoR Podcast. Look forward to having you in the future ones, man.
All right, thank you.
Hi, George.
Thanks.
Later, Jordy. Ha ha ha, funny Kalang. Thoughts of Dowie and their existence. Well, I'm a Dowie to the core. Plus, the fact that in real life, I'm actually very, very short. I'm only about 4 inches above what would be considered a dwarf in real life. So, yeah. Anybody else in chat got any questions that they would like to pose to our assorted guest speakers here?
Yes. I have a question.
Go ahead.
And this goes back to, again, I think it was Doom that was talking about this earlier, about advice chat and that. But on this live event, yesterday I was trying to do the parts of it where you have to have a mask on. Okay, so first I put the mask on in the appearance, like underneath the helmet. That didn't work. So the next, I just took the helmet off and put the mask on itself. Although I had it clicked as not show, so the mask wouldn't show. But I actually took my helmet off and had the mask. That didn't. I didn't get any credit for anything. So then I just put the mask on. How do you get credit? How do you make it work? How do you get credit for doing the scenarios while wearing a mask? Because I couldn't. Didn't matter what I did, I couldn't get any credit for having the mask on in SCs. What is the secret?
I don't know on that one, because I haven't done it. So I couldn't tell you.
Same here. Have you tried equipping it so as an active helm and then logging out and logging in?
Well, I didn't. I did equip it. Like I said, I took my Warlord helmet off and just put the mask on, but I didn't like log out and log back in.
You should try that, because it should. I mean, I don't know what their coding is, but it should render a save as that, so the system's going to make sure that that's your base when you come back. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
I would
right.
try that.
Well, we have been going for almost 3 hours, guys. Do we have any other questions that any of you would like to pose?
Not this week.
Because
Yeah,
we have covered a good bit.
Yes, and I mean, I think making sure that we're retaining new players and helping those that are, making their way up to T4 is the best thing.
I think that should be the main goal for anything we do collectively as a community. Work on ways to increase, bringing people in, make sure they stay, make sure they feel welcome, help them out with information. As you said earlier, take them under the wing. Show them the ropes. Positive reinforcement works so much better than negative.
And it's nice to, because I mean, that was kind of one of the big things during live. And this was before, you could really call anyone out for being toxic. But
Oh, Kalang is answering your question, Karis. Wearing a mask, not appearance. Getting kills in a scenario should give credit based on party kills, so your party needs to be doing considerable contribution to receive the credit. Just ask for whoever the question. Okay, yep, it was Karis.
Okay. Tell him I said thanks.
Yeah, he can hear you. Karis says thank you, Kalang, and again, Kalang would love to have you on the show at some point down the road. If you or any of the other staff would care to ever, come in on the conversations and weigh into the discussions, we would love to have you. So feel free to pass that on to Max, to any of them, GM staff included.
We'll play nice.
I have one last question.
Fire away.
While you guys are here. And it concerns Realm Watch, because I kind of today, under the light of a new day, I kind of feel a little bad about yesterday's Realm Watch, because I did let it get to me. I did get frustrated when I got started, and like I said, for the first hour, 90 minutes, there just wasn't anything going on. Okay, so do any of you have a suggestion? Like if another Realm Watch comes up. And okay, what can I do to help get me through those moments?
I said this once before, and I still swear by it. Pick people on both sides that you can trust, that even if they got to be vetted through the staff, but have them as on the ground people that are out in the zones looking, or that are in the fights actively, and then whoever you have being the technical person, such as Techno or yourself, basically they're feeding you information so that you can move to the active fights, because a lot of it is you're not getting any information out of the chat. A lot of the chat is listening and seeing what you're saying, so you need people on the ground. Basically combat photographers, combat reporters, field people that are on the ground, and you're the eye in the sky, so that you can take in the information, say, okay, well, we're gonna, even if the chat does not see it, you're seeing it, and you can move to that area, or you can cut to another area. That way, you're not having these times where you're searching around looking for a fight. You would always be jumping between locations.
Yeah, that's a really, really great point. Kind of thinking of, kind of treating it as like field reporters. And I was trying to do something like that in my stream at one point, just playing around with it. Like coming in live from, T1 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Karis does a really good, like news reporter type thing. I've tried to encourage him to do it more, but he needs to build on it. It's a golden platform, a golden ticket, if you will, if he can get it going. He just needs people to help him. So that I would strongly suggest run with that idea. You need a staff.
And then, yeah, I think that would help you out a lot. Another thing, if you can make proper calls on the moves that you see to keep it engaging and exciting. So maybe getting familiar with the moves. Plus, this might also help your gameplay. Making good commentary while the actual plays are happening, or predicting calls.
I do make efforts to do that. To call, I've always tried to call it like a sporting event, right?
Yeah.
And but the trick is, like I said, yesterday I guess everybody just, everybody is allowed one, I suppose. I just, I was kind of having a bad day. I got frustrated, and I think it showed. And I went back and looked at some of the tape last night, and I think it kind of came across in the commentary that I was a bit off.
I've offered to help you
I'm
before,
trying
man.
to, yeah, I know, but I'm trying to. I was just asking because of the intelligentsia here, and again, I mean that sincerely. But if that comes up again, I don't want to get caught in that.
If you ever reach that still point, kind of where you're having a hard time finding fights, you can also visit T1. I don't know if they're open to that, but shining some light on what's going on in the lower tier might kind of give you the break needed.
I wish I had thought of that yesterday. You're right. You're absolutely right, and I wish I had thought of that yesterday.
Because if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, and this is why I'm really big on just taking breaks, because you got to just recollect yourself every now and again. So maybe that break into T1, and it would also give some light into the other areas of the game that goes on. Because I get it, like everyone's focused on the end game, but the T4, but you're kind of missing out on the minor leagues, the new up and coming players. And then
Yeah,
I have
that's a good idea.
another point. Oh, and I don't know how open you are to maybe shining some light on the people that are PvEing or public questing. But if it ever reaches like a still point where you can't find any fights because one side's more dominant, maybe run around some of the other realm, not just the lakes.
See, if I knew it, I would do that. I would do that too, because if say somebody's running Bastion Stair, all I need is a name. I just need a name of one of the people in there, and I can port to them, right? I can teleport to them and then cover what's going on. And I was a little disappointed yesterday that, like Todd, I almost called you Tosh. Sorry, man. I didn't.
Sorry.
But anyway, like Todd said, nobody was really talking to me in chat yesterday. But I wanted to go cover the snot guy, the big snot guy that's running around in Chaos Waste. But I don't have anything that alerts me to the fact that he's up or down, unless somebody lets me know.
Well,
but yeah, but I hear I got your point, Todd. You have talked about that before, but the tier 1 thing,
is ask, man.
I wish the tier 1 thing is a good point. I just, for whatever reason, it just didn't occur to me yesterday. But all right,
all good. You're learning. You're growing.
Yeah, I always tune in and I try to raid into your channel when you're doing the Realm Watch, just so it puts more light on the Realm Watch. That's something I also encourage the other streamers. If you know Karis is doing the Realm Watch, guys, he does it every Friday. Raid the channel, please. I know when GameSpawn was doing community manager stuff, that was one thing he specifically talked to me about. He said, "Can you please raid the other streamers that are streaming so it keeps coverage on the game?" And then when the Realm Watch come to be, I got asked the same thing. I don't have a problem with it. Because ultimately it's helping to build the community. Now, I understand there's some people that are not going to do it, but I'm not going to get into it right now because I am going to kind of wrap things up here shortly. But yeah, next Realm Watch you do, I'll be on standby. I'll be hunting around for any fights on the order side. If there's anybody on Destro that could help out on that end, act as a spotter, it would help.
Okay.
I wish I could help you out, but my schedule's a little tight.
That's all right. But I appreciate your input, though, really. So, next week will be better. I guarantee you.
It's no worries. It's a work in progress. But I think with that, guys, I am going to wrap up this week's podcast. I think, again, we've covered some amazing subjects, heard from diverse points of view, had the benefit of Clang jumping in and offering insight into a subject we were discussing, which is immensely helpful. I've also gotten a slew of DMs, people saying, "Whoa, you got a CM in here answering questions?" I'm like, he came into the conversation and he offered his viewpoint. I'm not saying, hey, take everything as gospel, guys. Clang answered the question as he heard it, and we appreciate that answer. Again, the door's open to anyone on the staff. If you guys would ever like to come in and jump in on the debates and conversations, we would love to have you. I'm not.
Yeah, shout out to Clang.
thank you again, Kalang, for answering. You didn't have to, but I do appreciate the insight and information that you shared with us. It helped shed light on things, and it offers more transparency. It shows that, hey, communication can go both ways and be beneficial. So greatly appreciated. Please pass that along to the higher ups. That's part of why I'm doing this, is to promote the talking, promote the share. Get people all on the same page. Ultimately, it'll benefit. But anyway. I want to thank Karis and Kelly for being here today. Karis, are you going to be continuing to stream by chance?
I'm gonna be on for a little while. Yeah.
Okay, well, don't disappear, because I'm gonna be handing the community off to you, brother. Again, guys, if you don't know who Karis and Kelly is, he is the resident host of the Realm Watch. We will be rating his channel here shortly. Again, thank you all, Nightman, Doom Force. Shout out to Evil Jordy, who's also a streamer. As always, it's a pleasure talking to everyone, hearing the intensity and the heart that you put into your questions and defending your viewpoints. Much respect, and I welcome it. I hope you guys have had a good time on the podcast, and if you have any closing comments, share them now, please.
It was good. I appreciate it.
As always,
Dude,
thanks
thanks a
for
lot,
hosting. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Not a problem, Nightman.
Let's
Doom
keep
Force?
the community going. I think Doom DC'd.
Oh, did he? Oh, all right now. Anyway, I was glad to be a part. Thanks.
Always happy to have you. Yeah, he had to jump out. He DM'd me. Alright, guys. I am going to go ahead and wrap up stream. And again, we are going to go raid Mr. Karis and Kelly. So let's go over there, show him some love and respect. If you're not following him, when you get over there, I want to see some follows. Or at least say it loud, say it proud, let him know you're there. So with that being said, thank you to all parties. And here we go. Mr. Karis and Kelly. And I will catch you guys later.